Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plus3 Futures and Commodities Show. We are recording about 45 minutes before the close on Friday, the 16th. My name is Ben Maldonado, and as always, I'm here with my partner, Barry Hederachi. Barry, how we doing?
Doing great, doing great.
February's half over, more than half over.
Um,
Um,
I don't want to
uh,
hear
I know this year's just
it.
going crazy.
Mhm.
The market's going a little bit crazy too, but it's dancing on the edge of the razor, if you ask me.
And there's a razor right there.
Yeah, 49.46 is the razor,
Yep, yep.
but it is dancing. And
Mhm.
while it's dancing, we dance with it.
Let's see what we got. What do you got? What are you covering today?
Today, I'm going to cover cotton and coffee are the strong recommendations. Wheat and nat gas, I want to show those as we search for bottoms in those two. And I know you're going to cover the normal big five, which is ES, bonds, crude oil, gold, copper, the dollar, and the euro. So
Right.
let's
Yeah.
jump in with the E-mini. Everyone loves the E-mini. Let's see what's going on there.
Well, what's going on is we last week we left off with 49, 46 being the key level to watch, and that if we can hold above it, we can have more upside. And of
And looky
course,
there,
if we got under it, we could have a little bit more trouble.
right?
So yeah, look at that. We held it. I mean, the one pullback we had, the 1 day pullback.
Hmm. And it was
Yep.
sharp too. It was a sharp pullback.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yep. And it came right down into the 49, 46 area, you know, closed above it. Next day, boom, boom, we're back on up. It's a little shaky at the top, but the levels are holding. And what's important is we played with both of these lows, the low and the low before the final low.
Hmm.
And I've used both throughout this entire campaign. It's been okay. I know we've had good, they've responded well.
Hmm.
So what's important here is, I mean, if you're doing any kind of GAN analysis, you can't skip out on 180 by 360.
No, sir.
You just can't do that. So here we are. We are exactly 180 degrees up from the October lows and out 360
In time.
in time.
Hmm.
And that is what you call a square.
Right.
Price and time squaring out. So it's balancing. And so what do we do here? What we do is we wait and watch. We want to see how price responds. We want to see what happens, what the structure is, and if things change. Things are change. I mean, the thing is, things can look weak in a hurry when you're really up at these squaring levels.
Hmm.
And we haven't really put in, spike highs in a long time. So the highs seem to kind of drag out. So here we do have this square, which is really important. It can only happen once a year. That's if you have a squaring price above it. I mean, it could have been anywhere in here. It wouldn't have been the same square, right? So here
Hmm.
exactly is price and time squaring. Now, the one sort of the fly in the ointment, as they say, is that we have the low, which would put this at the end of the month,
Right.
but we wouldn't have the square. We'll be above 180, which means we're
Hmm.
gonna
Keep
probably
going.
run up into this 5,300. I thought earlier maybe 52, but it looks like it's more like 5,300 if we're gonna go for it. If we're really gonna
Hmm.
do this, let's do it right. In the meantime, I mean that's obviously coming from the low. We'll see what happens. The reason I'm looking at the higher low before the final low is because that's given us some good results. And this is a good lesson because sometimes the markets behave like that. It'll give better results off the higher low before the final low.
Especially if it's a false break like that.
Especially when how that came in. And
The other
and
thing, Barry, remember last weekend we talked about we had cycle hits on the weekend, and we sure got, a change in character when we opened up
yes.
Sunday, Monday. So it's also something to throw into the mix, which fits with you using that higher low there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So with the higher low, you can see how the 72s are working really well most of the time. So here's the 72 degrees up. You can see how that held from months on up. And then we had that big old consolidation where everybody was trying to sell it, and we were trying to be really cautious all
Right.
through it. And here was the other, here's a 144 by 72
72.
that came in. And you can see what happened after that. If it's not ready to go down, it's not going to go down. It'll do this kind of consolidation. Then it started making these higher lows, had a little false break into this. No, that was a higher low. Then here we settled above the 72 and we started, then we had this run, which was exactly 72 degrees from, well, basically it was about 100, it's about a 72-degree run up and about a 72-degree correction and about a 72-degree run back up.
Right.
Right. So it's running in 72s. And here's our 180 line, this dash line now, because it's 144 plus 36 up here. So it's really interesting. Hey, I mean, forget everything else, but I think somebody that's watching and studying these cycles, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think the 72s are still working. I mean, 90 is nice to look at, meaning the square. So we'll just stay with this so we can have a good, we'll have a good view of things. And the other thing was, we talked about this, how we touched this 144 after we broke out. We broke out above it. And I was saying, we have a time count here. I remember talking about it. Then we pulled back right onto the zone, 144, where we broke out of, ran back up, higher low, and we ran up to here.
And then pushed right to the half square.
So, all this time, everything's been fairly easy because, we've been watching the levels and everything's been fairly smooth. So now we have this square happening, and let's see what happens. I mean, all we can do is wait for price to tell us. What we know now is that there is a potential for a high in here of some type. And we don't have to, die on this hill. We just have to wait to see how price resolves. If price continues to hold about 49.46, obviously we're in good shape. If we can really get above this about 50, let's say 50.20, we're ready for the next run up. Now, if we consolidate in here, if we decide to consolidate above 49.46,
that's bullish.
Yeah. And like, let's, we have a, 49.46 to about 50.30. I mean, that's quite a spread. If we start consolidating like we did here, then it's going to indicate that we got more to go. So we'll have to watch how that plays out. I don't think we're going to consolidate like we did back in April, May, but let's see. The thing here is our run has been fairly clean, and it's, fairly vertical, and it's a very, very strong run. And usually, it'll correct kind of hard instead of consolidate. If it's going to consolidate, it means it's really just going to go higher. If it's a correction, it should be much, it'll be a quick correction and then we'll be done with it. And it's holding all the lines. So yeah, we'll stay bullish. We're going to stay on the long side, knowing that we squared out here. So we want to watch anytime price is below, basis the daily, price is below 420 or so, can't hold above that. We really want to watch that because that means the square might have come in and high could be in place. And then we can look for, how we consolidate or how the price structures out. But one thing to remember right now is, we talk about a high coming in and then, what happens next. We talk about, the counter trend and lower high coming in, right? So here we do have a high and we do have a lower high here.
So we got to watch that closely.
We really have to watch it. Well, Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, because if we take out Thursday, Friday lows, it's it's signaling weakness, and
we could move, yeah.
And with the square being in there, it could definitely, push come to shove, and all of a sudden we're sliding down the square. And that's the thing I wanted to mention. That's sort of the important thing here. We want to watch. Other than that, it looks okay. We'll just watch 49, 46, 50, 20. Those are the levels to watch. Let's take a quick look at the 30-minute. Well, here's that sell-off. We got very close to 50.70 is what we talked about it last week.
Mm-hmm.
We got up to 49, I mean 50.66 within 4 points of that.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good buffer. Sold off. Here's 50.40. We tested it there and sold off, went through 49.81, didn't quite get to 49.26, which indicated strength. And then we got on top of 49.81, stopped at 40.10 very nicely, held this, got on top of it here, right there. You can see how it held above, and then,
Mm-hmm.
Held above 50.40, tried again, couldn't quite do it. So now we're just doing this kind
Floppy.
of crazy
Mm-hmm.
expiration date madness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so for today, 50.40 was sort of the level to, either be get on top of or not. But what do? We kind of crisscrossed all over the place, which just means it's just going to continue. And we'll have to watch. I mean, the basis of 30, I mean, the 50.10 is really the level to watch. And we said 50.20 on the daily, so that's fine. So that's the line you guys are watching. Now, if we can get above 50.40, I mean, that's like the early sign. Getting above 50.70, of course, opens up the entire new square. So that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of where we are. We're at the upper end of a big run. We're up here. There's a hard line. And if you go back to the daily, you can see, let me put the square back where I found it. So if we put it here, we have 49.86 being 180 degrees up. And if I put it at this other other low, we are exactly at 180. So we want to remember this, like I said at the open. So 50.20 is the level to watch. If we start slipping and sliding here, it could get ugly in a hurry. So we want to watch it. But long as we're above, like let's say we do come back, but 49, 46 holds. All right, fine. We might be able to consolidate. If we start consolidating above 50.20, then it's a positive kind of consolidation, and it could easily just run up from there. But if we start consolidating under, for example, I'm just kind of walking it forward, right? So we have 49, 46. We're consolidating between 46 and 50.20. Well, not as positive, right? It has weakness because ideally we want to consolidate above it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's say somehow we can't do that. That's like a sign, yellow light, let's say. And then we somehow drop it below 49.86 and counter trends can't seem to get above that. Well, that's really a bigger sign of weakness.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just keep that sort of stair stepping in mind.
I put a post on Twitter this week that said, be bullish, but vigilant.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I
Like
wouldn't.
vigilant with your levels, man. If when the levels violated, don't stick with this bullish trend when it violated.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
it,
other
it
than
could
short
turn.
term, I mean, I think there's with this kind of a square 360 by 180,
Yeah.
there's risk in staying long. If you were long all this, say, hey, this is the time to just kind of, uh, zip it up and wait, and if it sets up again, fine, at least you're at lower risk to start the, trade the next leg.
Sure.
But holding here as if nothing's happening is kind of silly, right?
Mm-hmm.
You definitely want to be on your toes, only because it's squaring.
Yep.
And if it's not here, we'll get a second chance, but that's it. There's only that low, which we could consider to be a main low. And I'll say between these two, something's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
is one or the other, we should get some kind of a correction that's not even I think that's just sort of a given. We just have to figure out which one. It's either here or the one at the end of the month. So either way, we're close to something, right?
Yep.
So why risk it? That's my point. Looking at the
The
90,
weekly.
90, looking at the 90. I was thinking about the 90 square here.
Right. The
Looking at the
weekly.
weekly, let's take a look at the 90 square because we kind of looked at it last week. So this, right around, 49.58,
Mm-hmm.
basis the weekly. So this is what we want to watch. If we can, I mean, roughly, if we can stay above this week's low, market's in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's got a little bit more time to go.
And maybe
ABCD up
maybe
here.
we make up maybe we get pulled up into that ABCD. Yep.
Well, it's 52.50, 52.60. You
Hmm.
can certainly get up into 5,300, no problem, and that will be a great area to do this. It'll be quarter of the next square.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's not a bad place. But I mean, because the weekly kind of shot over, if the lows early this if the highs early in the week held and we just couldn't get back above 90, above this 49.60 area, then okay, fine. We can say, well, that which kind of overshot the highs in place.
Hmm.
But basis weekly, not really. We're pretty straight up. So let's just watch this week's low. Long as we're above that basis weekly, we're in good shape.
Hmm.
So we have to, I mean, this is a good case for looking at both sides of the street before crossing,
Yes.
right? And here's
Yep.
the street right here.
Yep. There, that is your
Side.
street, the 180.
Yep. And here's the other street. So, and
Hmm.
then we're basically at the intersection and crossing. You definitely
Yep.
have to be careful there.
No question.
Moving on to bonds. Bonds are pretty much playing out the way we figured out, did the ABCD, ran up, found resistance at 124, sold off. And we talked about last week, if this ABCD low gets taken out, bonds are going to get weaker. And
It's
we did take it
happening.
out. And yesterday we rallied right up into this 19 and a half. You can see how we turned around
Turned
and
down.
turned down. And today we took out the low of yesterday, low of Thursday. So this is all not exactly positive. We have support around 16.
You always want to look at the other case, and you know what when I was looking at it, Barry, put a bigger ABCD on there and see what you get.
Ah, yeah. Well, no
Got to
wonder
see
it
if
stopped
that.
for 3 days
Yeah, that's
in
what
a
I mean.
row.
3 days. Let's see if it holds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That could be. That's a good
Yeah.
one. Nice catch. That
Yeah.
could
Let's
certainly
see.
be. And if that goes, then he's really going to go. Then
Then
that's
it's
probably not going
really.
to hold.
That's
So,
exactly right. If we take that out, we'll really go.
mm-hmm. So
So
the
it's.
patterns are good. That could be. And this was a smaller ABC. It was a little bit more dirty. I would say this is a cleaner one
Mhm.
for sure. And there is a Gartley in here, XABC,
Sure.
the bag in the target in here.
Hmm.
That's great. Yeah, we'll watch that pattern. But 72 square is also in play. I mean, I think the real question is this 50% going to hold? No.
Yeah.
If
Yep.
we get down to this 1610, 1606 area and we hold, once we get there and hold, well, that's kind of a bullish, because then we would have a low and a higher low
Hmm.
and looking to go move higher. But if this 1608 area doesn't hold, then we have new lows coming.
Yeah. Testing
That's
the
how I
lows
look
for
at it.
sure.
So this is great. Yeah, that's a good find. We'll leave it on there.
See what happens.
I mean, it's very clear, right? If it holds,
Hmm.
one thing. If it doesn't, it has one more shot at the 50%. If that goes, then anyway, it's all going to go at some point.
Right. And that's the epitome of trading, right? We try to get a level where if we cross it either way, above or below, we know one thing's more likely to happen than another. And that's
Absolutely.
creating an edge.
And that's exactly what we did at the 72. We were up here.
Yeah.
We said, hey, this is resistance. If it can't get above it, it's going to get weaker. Well, what happened? Well, it got weaker. Counter trend, we talked about 124. Well, plus we had the 72 in there, right? This being a resistance layer. Well, it stopped exactly there. And our support line was really 119. Bounced around, couldn't do it. Then big break. And look, I mean, here's the thing. Let's pretend there's nothing else on the screen. We had the break below 119, and yesterday's high was right there to go back to test it.
Yeah, that's
You know what I
right.
mean? So now we're really squeezed between the ABCT and this 119, which has been there forever. So let's see how it plays out. So 116.08 would be if this takes out, gets taken out. 1608 would be the next support level, and we'll take it from there.
Hmm.
And moving on to the weekly, doesn't look very bullish, to be honest. And that 116 looks like it's going to go
Hmm.
based on the weekly anyway. So 114 is really the score of 144. We did take it out by a little bit in that little panic we had and rallied up. So this really is the move. This is
Yep.
the leg that it's either going to hold around here, up here. Either we're going to get a higher low or we're not. And we know the counter trend stalled out, really pretty much where it needs to stall out, lower part of the consolidation. So it's all still very bearish, the whole thing.
No
And
question.
and this when it gets to this 114, full square down, we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. But that's up until then, it looks bearish. I know we got 116 on the daily, so they're all pretty close down here. We'll see what happens, but we know the direction. Let's move on to crude.
Had a good week.
Had a pretty good week. Yep.
Mhm.
Little back and forth, but in the bigger picture, we're making progress.
We're holding important levels.
We are. And just if you guys have missed our last couple of weeks, well, if you missed it, you should subscribe and maybe click on the alerts so you
Yeah,
get an alert, and also subscribe and maybe like the videos. That it really helps. You guys have done really great. We have over 1,000 subscribers now, and
really
that's
appreciate that.
yeah, that was really good. You guys all pulled in and did it. And now, if you want to share the videos, great. We'll appreciate it. And we'll continue to do our stuff here. Getting back to crude, 73.50 was sort of the balance point. And we had this triangle that we were waiting to see which way it's going to break. It broke, came back to retest, perfect retest. And then the 50% of the square, the whole talk was, if we can get above the 76, 77 range, get
Yep.
on top of it, opening up 83, and then finally, up into the 93, 97. And look what we're doing quietly. We're making higher lows. And if we can settle above the 50%, around the 77 level, then as soon as we take out this high of 79, we're really making higher lows and higher highs. So we have
Yeah.
an uptrend, which we have now. Technically this is an uptrend.
Yes, it is.
So that means the correction is done. It means the square that we spotted a while back, kind of an odd square, but it squared out. What was it? 54 by 50.
54 by
Yeah,
54. Yeah.
very good one, which is close to 52. It squares out all the time. And so that's holding. So let's see how that plays out. But for now, it looks good, especially above 73. And seeing how we really, we can see how we were trying to get traction right around that 76, 77 levels, and we're starting to get push above it. You can see how Thursday low, Friday higher low, higher high. So we're pushing in the right direction, and we're bullish. What more can you say, right? Kind of.
Just waiting for that series of highs to get taken out, and that thing should run.
So here's the weekly. That's giving us a much calmer view, I would say. So we had that down week, then the week before went back up, and this week we really held up on the top of the range. And this is the breakout we were talking about that Ben was just saying,
Yep.
once we take out these highs, which is around 79, then it'll bring up, put us up into the officially trending sort of range.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's it for crude. Anything you want to add, or?
No, that's a good summation. Making progress. We just got to get through those highs, and then we could really get going.
Right. Exactly.
Gold is sideways, but it's still bullish.
Bullish, not giving it up.
It had a chance to turn bearish when they attacked that half square, and they just couldn't get it.
Had plenty of chances.
Yeah.
And what he's doing is it's really sort of holding this 2005.
Yeah, this
which is
2000
50% of the
area.
level, 50% of the square of 90.
Mm-hmm.
We did run out 90-day cycle here. Nothing much happened. There was nothing to really square. So it looks like we're going to go slice right through it. And we'll wait. 50% held for now. Gold needs to get its act together, because what we're starting to get now is, we have a lower high, a lower low, then we have a lower high, and now we have a lower low. So it could be consolidating a little bit. to the downside, or we could continue to go perfectly sideways. Look, I mean, we're within that square anyway. So, I mean, there is an ABCDP done here, like ABCD, but that low is around, probably close to 1990.
Yeah.
But, we had 2 good days of buying coming in. So,
All the metals caught a bid today, which is interesting.
mhm.
You'll see it in copper when we go to copper.
I think everybody's in a panic these days. Every Friday, everybody buys up gold, never know what happens. On a
Afraid of the
Saturday,
weekend. And we got a long weekend this weekend too.
like weekend insurance.
President's Day on Monday.
Right, right. So, well, let's take a look at the weekly gold, which is one of my favorite charts
Mm-hmm.
because it keeps you honest.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see how tight the consolidation has been. I mean, it's really, weeks upon weeks, we have just $100 range, and the 2000 levels really held. It's really between the 2000 level and the 50% of the square, which is
Mm-hmm.
2060. And so it really comes down to $60 range, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's been fairly tight. And anytime gold has been that tight, what happens is, invariably we get some kind of a breakout. So let's watch this closely.
Yep.
I mean, here are some breakouts, in the past, but these are more closer to the lows. But here's the tight consolidation, broke to the downside. Here's the counter trend, put in a low. Here's another one, went on for a couple months, 3 months, and the move.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another. This is a good one. I think we caught this in 2020.
Yep.
Really tight consolidation, and you can see it was above the
On
square.
top of the square.
Yeah,
Yep.
this is what we talk about. And it ran up right to the half square, came
That's
right back to
perfect.
the square,
Yeah.
and consolidation and a breakout again,
To the half square.
right? And here's the lower high we talk about all the time. Back down to the, back down and squared out, back on up. So here we go. So we're just ongoing. And you can see here, we made a high and then a very tight consolidation. So technically, I mean, usually this is bullish.
Very bullish.
So let's see how it plays out. 2000 seems to be the key level here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take a look at the dollar. Well, it's doing exactly what we were talking about last week. We were looking for it to get to the 1/3 line around 105. Right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we got there. We're well above the 50%, holding okay. So we have a kind of a sloppy trend up, not quite like the S&P straight up, but we're running more or less at 45-degree line right there.
Yeah.
So it looks good. And what can you say? Even if it slows down, momentum breaks down a little bit, we're still well above 1/2. So
Yeah.
it's doing okay. And long as
And
we're
it's on,
holding,
and you're still on top of that big consolidation there at the half square too.
exactly. So long as we're above this 103, 60, 50, 60, 70 area, dollar's in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
And this 1/3 is okay. It's I can see why, we had some overhead here. So it could,
Sure.
as long as we consolidate above the 50% of the line, which is 103.60, it's still in good shape.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at the weekly dollar. Looks good. Looks like on the way to our target. It's what it looks like.
Yeah, just climbing that trident.
So a lot of things can happen. We review this almost every week. We're above the 90. Really the 50% of the square is the next target, which is around 106, 106.75. So let's just let it
play out.
play out. And long as we're above that 50% that we saw on the daily, this 103.60 area, it's bullish. You can play it alongside more or less safely.
That's right.
And the euro basically stayed below the 108 level that we've been talking about, broke a little lower. So the downtrend is continuing. We have a new low. And I'd say it's weak below 108 and let it be that. And the trend is down. And we're below the 50% of the square. So that's sort of a weakness. It's showing some weakness.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the weekly, well, it's textbook. if you guys have been watching this, 110 up here, we had resistance. When it broke down, we talked about 108 being a key level. If we get below that and get stuck below, it's going to get weaker. And if you guys can see what happened last 2 weeks, we got below and we get stuck below
Yep.
like
So
magic, right?
it's portending weakness for sure.
Yes, it's making steady lower lows.
Mhm.
So it looks weak. It could consolidate up in here a little bit, but so far it's just by the book. It's holding right below 108, and that's pretty good. I'm not going to complain.
Nope. Copper's the last one I think you gotta.
Yep, copper, and I'm kind of side-eyeing our natural gas chart.
Yeah.
That real quick. So copper is playing the game. We pretty much
Half square game.
half square game. We're wrapping around the 50% of the square. We dropped that box last week, and you can see how now we're back up to the 10, the 383 level.
Mm-hmm.
Not much, you can pay. I mean, what happens here is until we break out, you can just play the borders, you can play the corners from each
Yep.
side. So now we're in the middle. So if we can get above next week, up until to here, what happens, can we hold above it on any consolidation? So at some point, it'll tilt, show its hand, and we'll know what to do.
Yep.
Weekly looks pretty much the same as last week, really.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Pretty much.
and because we, very tight movement, but we can joke about it, but from that, we got, I mean, the week before we got very close to this 364 level.
Mm-hmm.
See that? We stopped right there. And, buying came in, obviously. I mean,
Yep.
we're back up at higher than we were the week before. So this level it's still good. You can see it's working. And well, whatever's said and done, there's value there, right? I mean, they bought it up.
They're buying it. Yep.
So, let's see what happens. For now, it's sort of consolidating within this bigger box. Not
Mm-hmm.
quite in a big trend for now.
Not yet.
No. But it's, it's not dead.
No, it's not going down.
Mm-mm. Let's take a quick look at the Hang Seng. Hang Seng, well, we called that low, squaring out
Mm-hmm.
down there, completing with an ABCD nicely. Did a bunch of movement back and forth to shake out the weak hands, I think. And what happened was we put in 2 higher lows, and it's starting to pick up. So I think the low might be good.
Yeah.
The key was to really see if we can hold above this 50% line, and it did.
And we did.
Yeah. And so I can't, long as any counter trend holds above that for now, this area gets consolidated. And once we get on top of this block, I think we're back on track.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting recovery, eh?
Yeah.
Here's the Dow showing the same 360. We have the same 2 lows.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, in the Dow, it's a little bit different. It wasn't the futures market. So here, it's the same level where the
Mhm.
futures is the lower low. Anyway, we're squaring out here. We have a 3/4 of a square by 360. So we have to note that. So basically, we have 360 days coming into today. And the next one, if we take the next low, it'll put us towards the end of the month. It's just like the S&P. So we'll watch what happens there.
They all got that lower high, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And what's interesting is price is not the same. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a interesting play.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at the what do we got here? Well,
The Bradley.
the Bradley, we'll see how it plays out.
It's a bit ominous, but let's see.
Yeah, it looks, it's once in a while that we get, really, really strong trending, and you never know when you get traction. So it's normally, they come in these corners are the best you can do,
Mm-hmm.
but you never know. So I'll just keep it on there. We'll keep an eye on it. Not a big deal,
Mm-hmm.
but it's good to watch. Actually, I was looking for, let's see, let's take a look at natural gas.
I'm going to show something on that.
You can look at natural gas too? Okay.
Yeah, on a monthly, just that we're in a historical area of support. It doesn't mean it's going to bottom, doesn't mean you should jump in and buy it, but if you just look at history, you can see it's in a value area.
Mm-hmm. Well, here we broke the ABC
ABC.
potential ABCD. We're clearly heading down. So it looks like we're going for some kind of a washout. Just like some of the couple of
Mhm.
other commodities, like corn is heading down.
Soybeans.
Yep, beans. So a lot of these things are just kind of going for it. So let
Hmm.
it go in and finish it up. We do have 144 down a little bit further. And if you look at the 90, the 135 comes in, these
Yeah,
couple of
right
levels.
here. Yeah.
So that might line up with, some of these things that you're
Those
looking at.
monthly support. Yeah.
So we have that. We had the 144, a little bit below 135. So we'll keep an eye on that. But now, yeah, this is I would say when this is all said and done, it's going to be amazing. The others trade to the other side.
Yeah.
Only problem is they all happen so fast. That's why you got to.
Right.
So what else do we have to talk about? That's pretty much it. Let me put it back to you.
Okay. Really good
Uh,
coverage.
no, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's take a look. Look at the commodities and Bitcoin and Nasdaq and all the
Yeah.
good stuff.
Yeah. A lot of interesting stuff going on. It's another lower high.
But still within the triangle,
Oh
ascending
yeah, we're
triangle.
we're in this wedge, right? And
Hmm
these wedges normally, they produce a bearish result. Once you break out, you fall pretty hard out of
And this
these
is a pretty
things.
good one because it's very tight. It's not some big
Yeah.
spread out one. It's a
No,
tight,
this is
very
it.
tight,
It's
strong.
like a rocket if you look at it.
Yeah, yeah.
And you could say the NQs have been a rocket. Um, Interesting thing to me this week is number one, the lower high. Today we did an outside reversal bar. Always interesting to take note of those.
hmm
We battled for 4 days at this full square here. And by the way, all these levels, this is around 17,900. All these levels are on a Google Doc spreadsheet that I will post a link to when we post a link to the video tomorrow.
hmm
And look at where we closed, Barry, right on this harmonic balance line. I mean,
Like it didn't
right
have any other
on.
space, right?
Right. So, a lot going on. Obviously, if we get any major weakness or any kind of weakness on Sunday, Monday, we're going to fall out of this tight wedge and we'll get below the harmonic balance point. So because we're failing here, as long as we get stuck under, like whatever rallies we see next week, if we get stuck under, that opens up the half square.
hmm
That'll be the next spot. Now, remember, it could pull back to this half square and still be bullish,
hmm
right? If we pull back, sit here, stay on top, we're just sitting on top of this previous high, and it can launch from there. But the bearish structure starts by failing here and then testing here. And if we get stuck under here, obviously, then that opens up the full square.
hmm
So we're a bit long in the tooth, which is not surprising. We're struggling a little bit. We've got a high in place, a pullback, and now a lower high. So taking out this low would be the key, the next one, right? So that's around 17,550,
hmm
because then that'll give us a lower low, which is something we haven't seen in a while. Not in look in this whole leg. The pullbacks have not produced a lower low. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Let's look at the weekly. The thing to note here is the high was, just under the full square. So it's normal to have resistance there. We didn't get the outside reversal close below, but we definitely have an outside bar here. Or, and that's a weekly again. If we would have had to have closed down here at the lows to get lows on the week to get an outside reversal, but we did have an outside bar. So you're seeing this sort of frenetic up down type action here, which a little bit of fibrillation. Maybe we're getting a little abnormal EKG on the patient. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Anything you want to add on NQs?
No, no, you covered everything. It's very clear. I mean, we have lines everywhere. We have levels. I mean, you just got to watch it now. And
Yeah,
we do have timing. The timing that we talked about for the S&P and the Dow is also in effect here. So,
absolutely. So we'll see. We'll see how what price tells us early next week. Now let's go to Bitcoin. Bitcoin did something really interesting, and Barry and I were chatting about this a little bit before we started. From this low here in November, to the high right here is 450 degrees, which is, 590s, right?
Yeah, it's an important number. Yeah.
It's a big number. And price from here to here, 144. So there's a square here. And we timed out on the timing. Doesn't mean we're going to collapse. As a matter of fact, it's acting bullish here by, sitting on top of this half square last few days. It could be just that we stop this sort of parabolic rise that we saw and we just, correct and go sideways, which would continue to be bullish, but it's worth watching, right? You had a square here, 144 up in price is good, 450 is good in terms of time. And now we want to see what's the price action going to be going forward. If it does something like this, back and forth across this, it'll be bullish. If
Mhm.
we get under here and get stuck and then come down, and sitting here would be bullish, but if we get stuck under here, then that's a problem. So just take note, squared out, good square price, good square time. Now we got to watch price action and see what it tells us is more likely to happen coming out of here. The first level to watch is this half square, and the half square there is around 51 375. After that, it's obviously the full square down here. Anything to add here on Bitcoin?
Well, I think your half square and full square are perfect levels. We'll have to watch that. And yeah, no, and plus you have a good trend line. Everything looks pretty bullish, just like the S&P. We have to just consider the square that you have there.
Consider the square, the yellow light's flashing. It doesn't
Mhm.
mean you short it, doesn't mean you sell if you're long. It just means you got to pay attention. Or as you were saying, Barry, look both ways before you cross the street.
Yep.
Because a car could become speeding down that street.
Mhm.
On the commodities, as Barry was saying about natural gas kind of looking for a low and a washout, we're seeing a lot of that in different commodities. For a while it was the metals, gold, silver, and copper were kind of weak and then going sideways. Um, Corn and soybeans were going down, down, down. They continued this week. Um, Wheat actually joined them, and I'm going to show you wheat a little bit just as there's not a super setup there, but it's still holding and show you kind of what can happen there. A couple of ones that look really good. Cotton, we talked about last week. Beautiful follow through this week. We'll review that. Coffee continues to wind up in a triangle, but it's a bullish one. And let's start with nat gas since you covered that. Just want to show you this long-term support on that area that we're in. So this is a monthly,
Mhm.
and there you can see where price is this week. It's been, sort of down, down, down last 3 months, even with this huge outside reversal bar signaling that the selling was coming in. So we're on this full square here. It's the same full square we were at in 2020, in 2015, 2016, 1998, 99, 95, 97. I mean, it's been an area where there is value. The market has found value in this
Well, you
area,
can't go wrong. That's why I call that level.
yeah, going back to since the future started trading.
Mhm.
Does that mean you buy it blindly here and say, oh, we're gonna do one of these spikes? No, we try and go down to lower time frames, try and find the spot where momentum and players are starting to pile in. So we're gonna watch it. I like watching the 4 hour in conjunction with the daily. Uh, we'll get a setup there, like we'll get a move down, and then a move up, and then we'll get a higher low, and then a higher high, and then that's when we want to start getting interested. But from a long-term standpoint, I was just showing this as a pretty substantial area where value is. Now, knowing that gas and how it likes to, screw with the crowd, watch it come down, take out all these in sort of some false break and then turn.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but know that we are in an area of value. Anything else to add, Barry, on looking at the monthly? I know you look at monthlies a lot for
Well, looking at,
perspective.
well, yeah, looking at the size of the chart and the volatility and where we are, we could go a little bit lower, make new lows, fine, but we know it's an area where we've found support. So I think, we'll get on this now, start watching the lower time frames like the dailies and the weeklies, looking to see where we can get some kind of a square out or some kind of a potential turn. And it looks like a good area. This is we live for these. If we can, historical lows, I mean, hey, how often do we get those?
Right, right.
Right. So we want to be all over this. And we will be. And yeah, this is the time to start watching. We might have another little bit further to go, right? Might as well just make a new low and freak everybody out.
I'd love to see a clean out low, like cleaning out those,
Mhm.
historical lows that would create. It would be like remember when crude went negative that one day and
Yep.
everybody was freaking out and it was down and
And
if
we
we
should have
get
sold the farm.
right. Well, we were talking about like there was nowhere to store it. Like, could we fill up like swimming pools and garages? Could we
Mhm.
fill it up with crude? But
Mhm.
it's, maybe we get that kind of move on some sort of oversupply announcement. But we know that historically there's value here. So we're watching now for the technical setup.
That's the thing with the thing with the monthly is we can get 10 more bars and still be putting in the low,
That's true.
you know, or 6 bars, let's say.
Yeah,
And that'll get us into next winter, basically. So,
that's right. So we'll watch it. We'll keep you posted for
mhm.
sure and alert you to any of the dramatic changes there. But it's just, I just want to give everyone a little perspective on where we are on a big picture basis.
Your
Uh,
monthly, just a quick update to this, the monthly, I mean, that's just great. I just want to tell you, I'm also 700 and I'm done 270 degrees down from the high in 22.
mhm.
So it is starting to get, very close to strong support. And so we're in the range.
We're in the zone. Now we
Mhm.
just let's wait for the setup.
Yep.
The other one I wanted to talk about, which is probably not quite ready, we've been talking about it a lot, but I wanted to show you what it appears that wheat may be doing. We were talking a lot about wheat. We triangulated this low, caught this first leg up, and now we've been watching this correction, and it was holding really nicely. Even into like Wednesday of this week, we were still holding above this full square, and everything looked like it was a go. And then we had a big down day yesterday, and then a little follow through today in a lower low. I just put this ABCD on to say, okay, maybe we're doing something like this, sort of like the clean out we were doing in that gas, and
Hmm.
that would take us right down near those lows. I don't know that this is happening. I don't know that we're doing this, but this, I wanted to make everybody aware that unlike corn and soybeans, which have consistently been, making lower lows for a while, wheat hasn't, and now this week it's just started to give it up. So we gotta
Hmm.
we gotta watch this and sort of see where this low and this correction is going to come in. And then again, once we get the setup, we can get involved on the long side here. Anything else to add on wheat, Barry? Again, this was just a quick thing
Yeah,
for
well, I
everyone to
mean,
look
that
at.
low that we came in back in October, September, low is good. I mean, it was a good low. We traded above it. I'm still convinced that could be the low for the move. If not, I'll be eating a lot of wheat, so, a lot of
Right,
bread.
right.
uh, we'll see. We'll see how it works out. But anyway, from here on, if we take out that low for some reason other than it being, I mean, that ABCD that you drew up could easily be a perfect place for a false break.
Hmm.
But if it's not that, then we can get down into 450 area. So I mean, that's the next set of stop. So it could go. It has a long way to go. So I wouldn't be trying to catch anything if the lows get taken out outside of a false break. I'd wait to see where the next level of support comes in, or if we get some kind of a square.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, a lot like we were just saying with natural gas, we got to wait for the setup. When the setup comes on a 4 hour or on the daily, I'll for sure bring it up on the weekly show or, post some charts on X, but right now we got to let it play out. There is some sort of clean out going on in these grains, and we just wait and see how it plays out. Wait for the setup when we know we got an edge, and then we play.
Yep.
Let's look at the two charts that are I think are showing promise with something to do here. The first being, let's look at coffee. So coffee continues to wind up, right? We triangulated this low last fall, got involved in the run up here. We had this pullback, and now we're making higher lows, but we're also making lower highs, and we're winding up in a triangle. The thing that I want to show you about this triangle is that the triangle is bullish. I mean, look at the low of the triangle. It's above and sitting on top of the highs in November and this big consolidation and the sort of the end of the downtrend from July through October. So it reminds me a lot of the gold chart, Barry. You know how you on the weekly you show how the consolidation is above all those previous highs from 2010 and the 2008 area and 2009.
Mm-hmm.
We're making a nice high level consolidation here that when we break out of this triangle, we're really gonna I think we're really gonna move rapidly higher. The key level on a longer term basis, which I'll show you on the weekly, where the resistance is that we want to get over, is this full square here, right up like around 194, 195.
Mm-hmm.
Once we break out of this triangle and break above that, that's going to give us the room to fly. Because the key here, as you can see, all this structure since we came off those highs in 22, has been stopped by this weekly full square, and the highs that we've made are basically banging up against these lows as the top was coming in.
Right.
So it's at a critical juncture. It's winding up, sort of building up energy, getting ready for this assault that it's going to be making on this full square. And so this 195 to 200 level is going to be the place where, if we get up on top of here, stay on top of that full square, and then we could launch from there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look at the monthly. What I want to show you. Oh, the monthly, same thing, right? We're building up energy in a triangle right under an important half square on the chart.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are the sort of things that when they break, they're going to break pretty hard, and they're going to give us a hell of a move. So we're watching the daily, understanding where we are here, and what we need to get above. And then we're also looking at the bigger picture, how we are triangulating under resistance that if we break out with momentum, will be sort of like hitting the afterburners when this thing's ready to go.
Right.
I really like the setup here in coffee. I think it's dynamic, and it's got the characteristics of what could be an explosive move. Now, obviously, we don't know what's going to happen. We only know probabilities, but you want to stack these things up, the favorables up. And when you got a lot of them stacked up on one side of the scale, I get kind of excited about the trade. What are you seeing here when you look at these charts?
Well, I think from the April high that you see on the screen to the October low, last April, April, that high to the low in October, that squared out.
Totally squared out.
And then we ran up for 60 days, which is half of the square prior to that. So it's normal for it to consolidate here. So I think, like you said, it's a bullish consolidation, and I think there's a very high probability the triangle breaks to the upside. And if it does, I think there's some good trading there.
And then exactly. And the key thing is if it does break to the upside, we've got the daily and the monthly that could really kick in and provide a nice boost.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we'll see.
Yep.
That's coffee.
That's good.
And the last one is one we talked about last week. And we said, listen, we need to see a few things this week for follow through, and cotton obliged.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about, we've been in this super long, like 16-month consolidation. And basically with a couple deviations, we've been stuck in a half square for 16 months, right?
Mhm.
Uh, Started making this, we made another higher low here, and then started making a series of higher lows and higher highs. Last week when we broke out above, I said, what do we want to see? The most important thing now is any pullbacks or lows have to sit on top of this half square. Well, look what we got on Tuesday, right there. Or actually, that's probably Monday. And then once it did that, we started pushing higher. Now we're doing this little bit of like an expanding triangle, probably a mini fourth wave consolidation. But this is bullish, right? We're maintaining our price above the entire consolidation zone, which is key when you break out of that.
Mm.
And now that's all we got to do. As long as we stay on top, we can go sideways for a week, 2 weeks, whatever. It's going to be bullish. And so cotton is following through and doing what I had hoped it would. Let's look at the weekly and show you a similar picture. You can see this is a little more condensed, so it's easier to see. There, look at all that consolidation we were sitting on
Exactly. Mhm.
for that long. We were there, and this week, where's the low? Right on top of the consolidation,
Yeah.
and we have another up bar. So the weekly is confirming. We're starting to get this turn, this angle that you want to see when something's ready to take off. So the weekly looks good. Let's look at the monthly. And you can see why we might stall here for a little bit on a monthly basis. We're making a high here. We had a high here at same price, high here back in 2018, here in 2014, on the way down in 2012. We stalled there. So maybe we have to bang our head up against this like 95-80 area for a little while. But again, once we get above that, then we got the monthlies behind us to add to the weekly and to add to the daily. So all in all, it's a very constructive picture in cotton. And I continue to think, as long as the pullbacks, sit on top of areas that we want, which in this case would be the trend line and or this half square, you can buy pullbacks and have the probabilities favor we get higher prices coming.
Yep.
Anything else to add here on cotton?
Well, it's been very good since we got that first pullback after the breakout. I mean, right to the trend line, and it's been a solid trend since then. And after the next counter trend, I think it'll be ready to go again.
Yeah,
It looks good. Looks good.
it looks really good.
Mhm.
Barry, the subject, we usually end on a subject we want to talk about. One thing I wanted to talk about is for people that are interested in GAN, because I get messages and things that were saying, where should I start? What book should I read? How can I learn about the squares and things like that? When they're looking at the squares, or they're starting to focus on GAN, because there are so many potential variables in terms of the size of the square, the number of the square, all these sorts of things. If you were going to say for someone who's just starting out, what should they focus on? Should it be 45s and 90s? Should it be bigger, 180s, 72s, 52s? What would you say would be the thing to help people, dive into this without drowning?
Right. So I would say, I mean, they're all just simply divisions of the 360.
Right.
So I think the way to approach is not that you have so many squares. It's just to see which squares are working in a given market. Now, if you guys notice, once we find the proper square, we just leave it on there. We don't, doing our analysis. I mean, Ben never changes his squares. He
I
just
rarely
he
do.
slaps it on there, and that's
If
it.
it's working, yeah, if
Come
it's
hell or high
working,
water, right?
right.
So, and I'm the same way. You see our charts every week, and I make a point not to move them. And you see, we hardly change them unless something in the pattern is telling us otherwise. Then we'll try to see, well, maybe a 72, maybe that.
Right.
But the 72 144 square is sort of the master square, because all the other squares are within the divisions of that.
Hmm.
So if you want to use the 144 with all the divisions in it. but you can't just jump to the 144 and know how to use it because you haven't really done, your mind just not ready for that. What I would do is play with all of them, play with the 90. Now there's a 60 within the 90 is 2/3. And then within the 90, there's also 120. So, everything's sort of fits neatly under each other. But I would play with the 90 and the 72. I mean, those two are enough. Just use those two. And what you want to do is go back in whatever the market you're using or the stock and check your historical moves. And this is a great way to do, sort of a forward blind testing. Just turn off the bars and hit how you can hit a space bar and it'll put in a new bar for
The
every
next bar, yeah.
yeah, the
Yeah,
next bar.
historical, right?
So go back to the old swings, put the square on there and study it, see what happens and see if you can guess and see what happens at the 50%. And just to get a general idea, you can take a 90 and put it in highs and lows and see where you have traction, see if it stopped at the correct places, at the right divisions and times. And if it didn't, then try the 72 and one of those should really work. And if it's really tricky, maybe a 60. Maybe that's because you didn't see the 1/3 divisions of the 90. You know what I mean? So you have to kind of get really comfortable with the divisions and not treat it like some endless supply of numbers, which it could be, but
It
you're
could
not
be,
looking,
right?
which it could be, but you're not looking at the numbers. You're just looking, it's really
What
more,
fits?
yeah, it's just the fit and the pattern. You're really looking at, so treat it like a sort of a template. And all you're trying to do is say, how is it moving within that? That's all it is. And you'll see it price moves better within certain squares than other squares. So then you just, once you know the market, take your stock or whichever market. Once you find the one where it moves, seems to bang against the places and have reactions, then use that. And the best way to do it is do it historically because it hardly changes. I mean, within 1 minute, once you know how to do this, within a minute or two, you'll know any new market, which square is working, how the market's vibrating. So once you find that, then you can draw your lines and, trade it going forward. But the way to prove it to yourself is to go back and, go back 10 years or whatnot, and then walk it forward, test every corner that, look at the
Right.
swing.
Find a high, find a low, and then play around with the squares at those points.
Yeah. Now you're gonna have to scale the charts properly. If you go back really
Yeah,
far, you're gonna have to scale it up.
you got to square
Some
the charts
you
because
got to
it'll be
square the chart.
frustrating if you don't square your chart.
Mm-hmm. And what's funny? I was looking to see. I was trying to square the charts on TradingView, and you can, but it's like such a process. Like here, the software that we use, which is this sort of toolbox, especially designed to make it very quick to trade. And Eric was nice enough to program it with me. We kind of
I was
collaborate
going to
on
say
that.
you had him design it specifically so you could use it the way we wanted to.
Exactly, and to be able to do it quickly.
Right.
So in TradingView, you can tell whoever programmed it had no idea. Somebody told them, I need this, this, and the other thing, and it was theoretically done. So it takes a long time to get the square correctly. Now, once you get the square, you can't really expand it. Like here, we can just click a button, we get 90, 180. You know what I mean? It can roll out the square. So
Sure.
in TradingView, you can't do that, but you can do it. You can square. And once you get it, you can just leave it there. So I was testing all this time, trying to see the fastest way to do it and the easiest way, because a lot of people have been asking. Maybe I know a lot of times we say maybe, and we never end up getting around to it. Now that we have, subscribers, we kind of
Yeah.
made our mark. Maybe it's time to, we have to give you guys something back, for all the support. So maybe I'll do one with Ben together on using how to square chart on TradingView.
Yeah.
Then, you guys, anybody can do it. You don't have to pay for it. The free version will square just as fine. But obviously, you have to pay to be able to have a list and, a couple of lists and things. So it can be done. And once you do that, you're in pretty good shape. It's, that's kind of how it goes. So not to get confused, I would do 90s. And if the 90 doesn't seem to work, then do the 72. And neither of them works, just throw the chart away, go for another one. There are plenty of stocks. So,
Right. Right.
and we're going to start doing maybe featuring at least one stock a week. I think it'll be good for us
Hmm.
to do that, especially since the squares and GAN methodology works so well and on stocks.
Sure.
We'll start
No,
doing that, and then that'll be kind of educational because then you guys can probably use it along with us. Then
no,
we'll show you how to set it up. Maybe we can do it on TradingView
sure.
also, just to show you how to do it.
I'm
And
glad I'm glad we brought this topic up because I think it's one that confuses people that, are trying to get into this and trying to create their own squares. So doing a video like that would be great. And I think we will get around to that. And like Barry said, we wanted to thank you all for your support, for getting us up over 1,000 subscribers, for sharing the links. Let's keep growing this thing, and we'll make certain that we, give back to you guys and help you all, become proficient in this yourself, because that's the goal, is to have you all be able to create your own charts, create your own squares, and then create your own edge in your own system. Because
Mhm.
until you do that, your trading will not have the confidence behind you, knowing that, hey, if I do this, if this setup shows up, I know I'm going to be, over a series of trades, I'm going to be profitable. And that's the confidence that you need, not in saying, oh, any one trade I'm going to make money, but knowing that when you see a setup, because it meets your system requirements and your system is sound, you're going to be able to be profitable over time, and that's the goal. So again, we appreciate your guys' support and everything you do. Please continue to share the links, get your friends to subscribe, ring the bell, and we'll continue, producing this content plus more for you all. So great job this week, Barry. Monday's a day off, so we got a long weekend to rest up, and I'm going to make you do some more cycle work with me. We're gonna dive into some cycle work since we got a long weekend. So,
Yeah, we're
and
going to
of
be
course,
working weekend.
we'll be if when anything good that comes out of there, we'll be glad to share with you all. So,
Mm.
again, thanks for your support, Barry. Great job this week, and we'll see everybody next week.
All right. Thanks, Ben. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye
Take
bye.
care.